our next guest is someone I've gotten to know quite well over the last few years. If you were here in the minutes leading up to this introduction, you saw that we're pretty much on the same page on everything. He's the Chief Learning Officer at Summit Success International and a super talented lawyer coach. We've also co-hosted a few webinars together. So if you notice that our chemistry seems to be a bit higher than what normal people have, that's why. Doug Brown is here with me today. Welcome to our Reboot camp, Doug. It is wonderful to have you here.
I'm so excited to be back with you, Nick. I always have a great time when we talk, and I think we drop some nuggets that your viewers can use.
I agree. We do great work, and that's why I think you're like a recurring. I don't want to say character, but like
okay.
if this was a TV show, you're like the part of the main cast. You know what I'm saying?
I love it. I'm honored to do that for you or with you.
Thank you, man. So I want to kick it off by asking you, when a lawyer comes to you initially and says that they want to increase the productivity of their firm, what's your sort of initial response for them generally on how to get started increasing their productivity?
Yeah. Well, first, I get this question all the time because lawyers have figured out that there's only so many hours they can work. And even there's the law of diminishing returns. The longer you work, the less productive you are. So I work really closely one-on-one with a select few number of clients. So I go really deep with them. So what I'm trying to get a sense of to start is, where are they now? How do they think their productivity is? How are they measuring it? How many hours are being billed? How much is being written off? How much is being collected on time or not? Because once we've got some data, it helps me evaluate the true situation, because some people are far more productive than they think, and others with some relatively minor shifts can drastically increase their productivity. So what I really do is get in this consultative process of, what is it why are you believing that you're not as productive as you want? What's the data? And then where do you want to go? And what kind of difference would it make if you could achieve that productivity? And then we work on, I've got this enormous toolbox of things, and I pick out exactly what they need for their specific problem. And that's what I love about one-on-one coaching, because they're not having to wait with a whole group of people or wait till it comes around on the syllabus. We're zeroing in on exactly what their issue is, and they can start to see productivity gains very quickly.
One of the most successful lawyers I've ever spoken to, his name is Mike Morse. He has a massive, massive, massive personal injury practice. And he's sort of, he's like on tour right now. He wrote this really great book. I read this book in like an hour and a half because it was captivating. It was his story of how he went into private practice, but he gives all of the credit of all of his massive success to his father-in-law, because his father-in-law sat him down and told him to get a business coach who would teach him how to run a business, to be more effective, more happy, more productive. And ultimately he just attributes, I find it funny that he attributes this success to the person who told him to get the coach, but secondarily the coach.
Yeah, I just want to, I love that, because so many lawyers are now getting the secret that professional golfers and athletes have known for many years. And that is that a coach isn't an admission of a defect. It's, I know I'm at this level. I want to get to the very top of my game. So I'm going to get somebody that can help me see what I can't see, hold me accountable, and make sure I stay on track.
So I like that you mentioned that, because we're talking about holding accountable, staying on track. And if you want to stay on track, you have to have a track to begin with. And I'm sure that law firms watching this, lawyers, sole practitioners, anybody who's interested in this had big goals at the beginning of Q1 of this year. And then by the time, you got around to a couple of things, you kind of given up on reaching many of those goals, or you forgot about them in the first place because you get busy. So what advice do you have for attorneys on future planning and creating a roadmap for actually achieving the goals, or even identifying the goals for their firm?
Yeah, I love that we're talking about this. The first thing is there's nothing magical about January 1st or the first quarter. Um, so many lawyers and business people or people in general have good intentions in the first quarter, but they don't actually set it up as a goal. So they have this idea of what they'd like to accomplish. They have some general plans, but they don't actually go through a process to establish it as a goal and be specific, make it a smarter goal, and then break it down into component steps they can execute. So anybody who's listening, if you haven't done that, then there's no better time to start than right now. There's nothing magical about waiting until the end of the month or the end of the quarter. And the other thing, if those who did that might look back and say, oh, well, the wheels came off the very first month. Like, yeah, that's what happens. No good plan survives first contact with the enemy, so to speak. So this is not the time to beat yourself up or to give up. It's the time to look at it and say, all right, what did we do well? Let's give ourselves credit where credit is due. Lawyers are terrible at that. And what should we do differently? Did well, do differently. Not did wrong, but do differently. Because you can't change the past. All you can do is learn from it and set some goals. So right now we're sitting here in the middle of July. And I would recommend everybody, whether or not you had goals, what did I do well? What do I want to do differently? Where do I specifically want to be at the end of the year? How much money do I want to make? Not more than net last year. Just pick a number. What's the number? Do the math. How many hours do you need to work to bill and collect to make that number? What is that a week? What is that a day? Is it even realistic? Is it achievable? And that's a construct of how to set what I like to call a smarter goal. It's specific, it's measurable, it's achievable, it's relevant, and you have to evaluate and revise it as you go. And so I've got some resources on that I'd be happy to share, but it's never too late. And I'm going to recommend, Nick, that setting a list of 25 goals isn't realistic. Pick three that matter. Pick one for you as a human, pick one for you as a business, revenue or profit, and pick one for your organization and focus on those and allow yourself to recognize your wins as part of your weekly wrap-up routine.
I was just telling you this before, I'm very fortunate in my life to be surrounded by really incredible people. I, of course, am referring to you, but I have this friend, his name is Anthony.
Yeah.
And I think he owns 2 businesses now. He's very entrepreneurial. He's not risk averse at all. And he came to my house. He sat down on my couch in between me and my wife. And rather than like, hey, hi, how's the weather? What's going on? He just blurts out, where do you guys see yourself in 5 years? Like, where do you want to be?
Love it.
And
Love it.
and I realized that a few years ago, I had very lofty goals, right? I wanted to buy a house. I wanted to get married, and I wanted to be at a certain point in my career, all of which I have achieved, right? And hooray for me, I get to reap those benefits. But I did realize that I wasn't up to date on where I wanted to go. And as a result of that, I got the opportunity to reassess where I want to go. Like, what's my next set of goals that I want to accomplish? And I'm currently working on that, because sometimes it's hard to identify goals, especially when things are going pretty well. But it's important not to just turn the monotony of the day into a rut. Like, if I have things that I'm aspiring for in my career, then I'm sort of more motivated in order to achieve those goals.
I'm so glad you said that, because look, lawyers as they're going up are always focused on this next achievement. And especially those who've built successful practices can wind up finding themselves like, oh, wait, I accomplished my goals. I'm not worried about payroll anymore. And I've got adequate clients coming in. And then they wind up with this low level of dissatisfaction, and they don't even know where it is. It's just something isn't right. And when I'm talking with lawyers about what I do, they're kind of surprised to realize, oh, wait, I haven't actually set any new goals for myself. I'm just trying to beat last year or just survive, or I don't have any big thing that I'm going after. And they realize that the success they've had is they've always had that big thing to go after. And so when we can kind of figure out what makes them tick and help them find that thing, they not only start moving forward again, but they feel better because, yeah, this is what it feels like to be energized and excited and move towards something. And that's especially true. So many of my people I work with are in their late 40s and in their 50s because they're also going through this kind of existential crisis. I don't like to call it a crisis. It's more of a midlife shift from building to, wait, I want to enjoy things now, but I don't really know how. So, or is it even okay? Am I allowed to like take a day off and have fun? Everybody's depending on me. So yes, setting those goals, and it's only through those conversations that even they start to see that was the thing that was missing and I couldn't see it.
I think that's really funny because I was feeling a little bit of what I got to admit, I was feeling a little bit of what you're talking about, and having those conversations and having people like that, right? Like having a business coach in order to, like, gosh, I think I might need a coaching call with my mentor soon because I don't know necessarily what my goals are, but enough about me. Because I want to talk about, we actually were just covering this before we officially started. And I think one of the things that is so valuable about coaching is that you can get to a place where not only are you successful, but you're more satisfied with your success. And when I spoke to you, you were on my podcast last year, and you brought up a really interesting point about marketing and how a lot of lawyer marketing, we were just discussing this too, so I feel like I'm repeating myself, but it tends to ignore the human and focuses more on like past success of the firm and the results that I'm going to get for you, rather than offering solutions and relief to a human being who is likely either pretty perturbed or fearful or in a bad way. So I was wondering if you could speak a little to that today and offer some tips on how to improve your existing marketing strategies to sort of better communicate to the human being.
Yeah. This is one of my favorite things to talk about. I talk about marketing a lot, and I always talk about it and about the biggest mistake that I see lawyers make. And I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn and I look at a lot of profiles. And the problem with traditional legal marketing is it's all about them. It's look at how great my firm is. Look at a picture of my office. Oh, maybe look at a picture of a courthouse. And your clients don't actually care about you. They really don't. All they care about is, can you solve my problem and can I trust you? And they care about it in their words. And that's the differentiator. So when you say, I speak at a lot of CLEs back when that was a thing. I guess we're coming out of this now, but I was in a room speaking at an annual meeting of a bar association. And I said, all right, how many of you are really smart? And everybody's hand goes up. And I said, so, and how many of you work with a great firm? And everybody's hand goes up. And are people of integrity and will fight hard for your clients and will provide, and you care. And everybody's hands going up. And then they start looking around at each other thinking, wait a minute, we're all the same. And so what makes you different? What makes you different is how you communicate to your client. And I'll be clear, I'll be more direct than you, Nick. When your client comes to you as a lawyer, they're terrified. They're terrified of losing their family. Even if they're a corporate deal or transaction, they're terrified inside, even if they won't admit it, because their career depends on you doing a good job. So people are terrified and you have to make them feel safe and comfortable. And they feel safe and comfortable with you as a person, not your impressive office, not the number of people in your firm, but you as a person. What do you have in common with them? How do you listen? How do you answer questions? So to improve the marketing, and the other thing that I see too is and this is true with, it's the same thing with medicine, Nick, and then I'll stop my rant. But if you're sick and you have, you've hurt your back, you're not going to your general practitioner. People want, I know it's hard to call yourself a specialist, but people want to know you focus on their thing. So when you say, we do this and this and that and that and the other thing, you lose credibility. The exception is if you're a larger firm and your firm covers those things, you might say that, but they're not looking at the firm. They're going to the about page. They're looking at the lawyer profile to see what that lawyer specializes in. And 9 times out of 10, I will see terrible bios that make no connection at all to what the client's going through. And then you wonder why clients get sensitive about price. I could go on. We've actually talked about this for a couple of hours in different programs, but that's the big mistake is not being specific about the problems you solve and who you solve them for and why you do it.
For anyone who might be tuning in a little late, welcome to our law firm summer reboot camp. My name is Nick Werker. Today we're focused on law office management, and here with me is Doug Brown, the Chief Learning Officer at Summit Success International and superb lawyer business coach. And we talk about this all the time, and I mentioned before sort of being dissatisfied even in success. And one of the things that I know you are such a big proponent of is filling your practice or even your own business, right, with the right clients. And I know that it can be really satisfying to do the work that you really want to do. I was just talking, there's a Japanese principle called ikigai, or I'm probably murdering how to pronounce it. It's Ikigai. And it's really like a 4-part Venn diagram on the optimal like happiness in your job. It's what you are good at, what you enjoy doing, what you can get paid for, and what the world needs. And at the intersection of that is this concept, ikigai. If I'm pronouncing that wrong, I apologize, but I spelled it. And one of the things that I think helps lawyers, right, do the work that they want to do is finding the right clients for them who are really speak to the mission of why they went into the practice of law in the first place. So being that this is your area of expertise, I want to get everyone a little bit of I don't know, on this path to filling their practice with the right clients. So can you talk a little more about the importance of finding those right clients who are a good fit and how you can go about attracting these ideal customers to your firm?
Yes. And like this is something I spend a lot of time on with my clients, and I know we have limited time, but I will tell you that when lawyers are starting off, especially those who are founding a practice, the temptation is to take anybody who has any remotely kind of problem you know how to solve because you're trying to build up your practice. And sometimes you have to do that. But for those who are established, success comes when you are super focused, not just on the problem you solve, but on who you solve them for, who you solve it for. So the answer isn't more clients. It's getting efficient and effective about your marketing and also your delivery of services. So people want specialists, as I said, and the good news that I kind of invented my own approach to this when I was working with clients, because we'd start off talking about ideal clients, and I realized that the people I'm working with is like, that's just too theoretical, because they just start with the whiteboard. I said, well, wait, let's stop. Let's do something different. So I call it a clients matter assessment, because they're clients and they're matters. And what we do is we have a very specific structure to go back through the last 3 to 5 years of the clients and the matters you have handled. And we start asking questions like, which ones were the best and why? What was it about the matter that made it great? What was it about the client that says, if you could fill your practice with clients who look just like that, why? And then we get clear, and then where did they come from? So it's not a whiteboard exercise. It's looking back and saying, when you were at your best, what problems were you solving? What were the people like? And then the fun part is we do the flip side, and we say, all right, now Tell about your clients from hell, the ones that you never, ever want to see again. And the matters, if you had to do it again, you would, you know, you'd want to go drive a beer truck. And, you know, one of my clients years ago was a collaborative family lawyer, and she got a lot of her business from people who wanted wills and trusts, but she hated doing wills and trusts. She just wasn't her thing. So after a while, we worked through it, we got clear on it. And she figured out, well, wait, there's this guy that loves doing that stuff and isn't good at generating business. What if we teamed up? Well, next thing you know, they've got a 15, 20-year partnership, which is doing both estates and family, because she's doing exactly the work she wanted for exactly the people she wanted to do it with. So going through that exercise and having somebody to lead you through it, to ask you the questions and to ask you the really irritating ask why 5 times question, really helps you get to the ground of what an ideal client looks like. And then when you've got that profile, then you can make a decision. Does this person, do they have the markers of an ideal client or a client from hell? And you can make an intentional decision about how to move your practice more towards the ideal clients.
We got a really great question, and
Yeah, I'm going to look at it here. I just saw it when I was talking.
I'm just going to read it out loud for
Yeah,
anybody who
please.
can't see it. It's, what if you enjoy having a multidisciplinary practice? My primary areas of practice are family and probate, but recently I have started working with business owners, IP mostly, and I really like it. How can you grow a firm with various areas of practice?
Well, I might get your name, and I think Nikita. Hope I didn't pronounce your name badly. What I like about what you stated is you have kind of 3 core areas. You're not trying to do, according to this post, 25 things. So family and probate are pretty complementary practice areas. Family, as you know, is super time intensive. Probate is a lot more about systems and processes, and you can have support staff that can do a lot of that heavy lifting for you, because a lot of the probate work doesn't require the direct work of the lawyer. It requires lawyers' oversight. The IP area for business law, I can see how that would also be related to probate. So, you know, the question of how can you grow a firm with areas of practice is to really be clear about which one, like you said, you love business owners and IP, which is intellectual property, right? So what exactly is it you like about them, about each one? And then we talked a few minutes ago, Nick, about having a plan and actually having a little business development plan for each one, saying, all right, I want my practice to be 30% family, 30% probate, and 30% this particular type of business owner with this particular type of IP problem. Once you're that specific, I just made that up, now you can start creating a plan to actually make it work that way. And I see trademarking with business owners. Yeah, and that's a natural outgrowth of business ownership. So I can absolutely see that. So I think it's being intentional, Nikita, about the kinds of clients you want in each area and seeing how they can fit together.
I think
and I don't see them as diverse. I see them all as complementary areas in your case.
I agree with you. And I think what you've sort of stated to begin with is, once you identify that those are the 3 main areas that you want to focus on, like I don't think there's anything wrong with having 3 main areas, because it's still specialized. And once you identify who the target customer is, right, who your best customers are for trademarking, who your best customers are for probate, and who your best customers are for, what was the third one? Family.
Yeah.
You can start, what I would say is selling the result, right? So like, what sort of peace of mind does a business owner get after you've taken care of their trademark? Well, nobody else can use their name and get involved. They're sort of protected by the law now, and their business is safer because of what you've done, right? So you really are providing security. I know that's kind of the answer to all of these, but when you speak directly to that customer instead of saying, here's how I'm going to do it and here's how I'm going to get you there, that's all well and good, but people make decisions with emotions and then they justify it with logic. So once you bring them along for your process, that's all well and good. But
and I want to jump in, Nick. Can I jump in a second? Yeah, because and I love this is a great example. There isn't one person on the planet that wants a will, a trust, an estate, or a power of attorney. Not one person. They want what those documents give them. Those documents protect their son against their future ex-daughter-in-law. Those documents make sure the next generation is protected, that the government doesn't get their wealth, that their voice, they can have a voice when they can't speak for themselves. That's what they buy. They don't buy the documents. Not one person has ever wanted a divorce. They want to start their life again without ruining the rest of it in their family and losing all of their assets. So when you start talking about it that way, a business owner who wants to protect a trademark they're trying to build wealth that they can transfer. They don't want it to be stolen. So yes, the trademark is the legal vehicle that you use to accomplish the objective, but they buy the objective. And when we stop talking about legal process and we start talking about how we accomplish their objective, now you're cooking with gas.
That was extremely well said, Doug. I want to talk about, because I like actionable tips. And I think what you do so well is and for anybody who's listening to this, watching this, whatever, I'm going to send a ton of resources that Doug has on helping. You're very welcome, but I shouldn't be saying you're welcome because Doug, you did all the work. But what you do so well is you outline how easy and like step by step how attorneys can accomplish these goals. And what I think a lot of lawyers really could use more of in their day-to-day, because we're not trained to be business people. Nobody woke up and especially coming out of law school, nobody woke up and said, like, I want to run a business today. I want to figure out, I don't know, how to create revenue and get customers. It's hard. So what I know you're a big believer in is SOPs, or standard operating procedures, right? So can you tell us why having a standard operating procedure in general can be so valuable to helping grow a law firm?
Yeah. And it's interesting. I actually have a love-hate relationship with SOPs because I feel like I'm a pretty creative person, and I resisted SOPs for a long time because I felt like they were restricting and limiting. And a lot of lawyers will too. Well, every client's different, so I have to handle each thing as like a bespoke matter. But the truth is, so much of what consumes time and energy is made faster and better by having an SOP. And an SOP could be something as simple as a checklist or as a little routine that you write down, so you can free up your mental energy for things that matter. And it could be something as simple as, with your assistant, every time you open a matter of a particular type, here's back in the day, I'm showing my age now, you would have the red weld folder and the manila folders. And it was, I need these manila folders. They are labeled and colored this way. And then everything shows up, boom, that's it. That's a system. So you don't have to think about it. So when you have an SOP, then you can look at it and see it, and you can figure out what other people should be doing. Maybe it's client intake. Maybe it's accounts receivable. Maybe it's marketing. Maybe it's even delegating. But once you take the stuff that is routine, it doesn't require a great amount of mental energy, but it's important, right? Because you don't want to miss a deadline. And you reduce it to a simple system. Then you free up your brain to actually do the lawyer work. And you're not up at 2 a.m. wondering about, did that email actually go out? And Nick, when you have people working with you, if you're finding they're coming back to you over and over again with the same questions, or perhaps the work isn't finished, it's not a good quality work, that's a symptom of a lack of standards and systems, so they know what complete work looks like. I talked to a partner in a big firm the other day, and he spent 4 hours on a final review of a document. And I said, that's not a final review. He said, yeah, I know, but they had typos and I had to rewrite sentences and the format was wrong. And I said, why didn't you send it back? And he didn't have an answer because he didn't have a system. And then he said, well, but that'll make them angry. I said, well, yeah, if you just toss it back on their desk, yeah, they'll get angry. But if you have done the work so they understand what the standard is of what completed work looks like, you're going to get completed work. So those are all SOPs. They can be really simple. And what I love about this topic is if you've got an assistant, you don't have to write the SOP. You can just have the assistant start keeping notes of the steps that he or she is taking. And your SOP builds itself.
I want to talk about this because I want to say that this is like a plague affecting lawyers, is a refusal to delegate. And there's a very influential, I forget her name, it's escaping me. I want to say it's Dina. She says attorneys should delegate everything. What's her last name? Dina Eisenberg or Diza? Yeah, it is Dina. Joe, you remember everything. She says attorneys should delegate everything. And it's so funny. You come to her, you got a problem, delegate it, right? And it's easy to write everything off like that. But why do you think attorneys struggle with delegation? And what advice do you have for lawyers on getting better at delegating?
I think lawyers struggle on delegating because nobody's actually taught them how to delegate. And there's a mindset issue. It's, I'm not sure I can trust other people. I'm not sure. And then that's backed up by experience. When you don't do a good job of giving an assignment, you get back work that is not done to your satisfaction. And then all of a sudden it's that person can't do the work that I want. No, you just haven't done the work to learn how to delegate it, responsibility, authority, and training, so they can actually complete the work and know how to come back to you. So, and there's this need for control and this fear of making mistakes. So all of that stuff goes away. I see Jeffrey Kogan said, and also the work by the person will never be as good as your own work. Yes, it won't. It's not you. And that was part of this conversation I had with this other lawyer. I said, so the work you did, what's the marginal benefit of you rewriting it in your own way? Would it materially change the outcome? Probably not. Okay. So with Jeffrey's question of, it won't be as good, it's, well, let's make sure we train them to the standard so they know what good looks like. Let's give them the tools so that the quality can be within the range of acceptable quality. And then let's also recognize that just because they don't do it the way you do it or don't say it the way you say it doesn't mean that it's wrong. And so there's as much work on the person doing the delegation as the person doing the work that is delegated. And that's another reason why lawyers struggle, is because they struggle to see the payback on that investment of time. But it's absolutely there.
I'm going to read this out loud while you read it to yourself, because I want anybody watching this to know what we're talking about. But Nikita has written in again, a wonderful question, thoughtful. On delegation, I have started to do this, but one of the primary issues we face are the costs associated with delegating. For instance, I am a solo attorney and I have a contract paralegal. I would love to delegate more, but I am afraid of the overhead costs.
I love this question. For every, if you're paying the paralegal $25 an hour and your bill rate is, call it $200 an hour, for every hour that you outsource something to your paralegal that you're not doing, you're making $175 more an hour. So if the time that you're freeing up, you're paying $25 an hour to free up $175 an hour worth of potential. And that's true, even if the task that that paralegal is doing is not billable, but you had to do it. This is one reason why I recommend that some solo attorneys and small attorneys don't do the initial calls on collecting their accounts receivable. Having an, and there's I have an SOP for that, but there's so many reasons that I recommend that, because they will not make the call for the account receivable. They are very uncomfortable and won't do it. And then they get sucked into other things about the case. But when the assistant makes the call, and it's just a routine thing, it's just a bookkeeping thing, there's no judgment involved. So I think, Nikita, you're right to be mindful of costs. What you're not seeing is what needs to be calculated. I say, I don't want to be judgmental. I don't know what you're not seeing, is the opportunity cost of you doing work that doesn't require either the judgment of an owner or of someone with a law degree.
I agree. I like if you need somebody with a law degree to touch something, it is obviously going to cost more than like I'm a perfect example, right? I am an outsourced resource for phone calls, right? If you can't take your phone calls because you're a because you're a busy solo attorney, you outsource the calls to me. It's much cheaper than hiring a receptionist, and you get the end result, right? Your phone calls are answered professionally by somebody who understands your firm. And you're mindful of the cost, but think of the time that you bill when you're somebody with a law degree doing the actual work of a case. We spoke about this with our prior guest, that Clio's legal trends report measured that on average, an attorney is only billing 1.6 hours per day. So just delegating these tests and getting your billable rate up to 2 hours a day, 0.4 hours more a day. Well, how much more money is that worth to you per day than it costs you to delegate simpler tasks that don't necessarily need to be managed by the owner or by somebody with a law degree?
And I just want to toss in, I know we're coming up on our time, is there is a little bit of art and science to picking the person to whom you're going to delegate the task. And just like people hire you, Nick, to accelerate their business so they can stay focused, or me so they don't have to learn. I bring my 30 years of experience so they don't have to learn it themselves. They can just learn from the lessons. It's oftentimes can be wise to pay someone a little bit more so that you are confident that the work is done properly and that it's done more quickly.
If you're asking me what my thought of a virtual assistant is I'm obviously a little biased because I don't even in my professional life answer my own phone calls. All of my calls are screened, and like our prior guest, I don't take unscheduled phone calls. So I am biased because I work in that industry, but I do know that the most successful people that I have met are so intentional with their time that they use virtual assistants to help them manage their schedule, to go through their email and respond for the person on behalf of the person. And it's really just like Doug talks about, they have standard operating procedures. So my friend Andy, who was on this event yesterday, if I email him, I cannot get in touch with my friend Andy. His assistant, she's a virtual assistant, her name is Emmy. She responds, "Hey Nick, Andy is doing X, Y, and Z. I'm happy to book a call on his calendar if you so wish, but he will get back to you. I'll relay the message and he'll get back to you when he can."
Yeah.
This outsourcing of tasks, right, saves him so much time that I have watched him grow his business like exponentially. It's just what you want to focus on. If you want to focus on busy work and things of that nature, you can, if that's what you enjoy. But if you want to grow your business and work on your business, not in your business, then it's time to really like make the initial investment into things like virtual assistant, into business coaching, and into delegating the tasks that aren't the actual money makers for your firm.
And I will say, Nick, this kind of conversation is the thing I do with clients all the time, because they are looking to be more productive. And so we actually do the work together to figure out what exactly do you need? What are the tasks that are going to be done? Who's qualified or not? And the good news today, and I guess it's byproduct of the pandemic, is I wouldn't even really, virtual simply refers to the fact they're not in your office. And we have this illusion that if they're in our office, they're somehow better. It might be true. It might be easier because you can just shout out your office door. But all a virtual assistant is, it's the right person who is working in a place that isn't in your office. You can get exactly what you want. Somebody who is qualified. I have clients with great success on everything from secretaries to legal assistants with virtual assistants. And there's all kinds of them out there. So virtual assistant does not mean you're delegating everything that delegates is. You can't abdicate your responsibility to a virtual assistant. You have to actually know how to manage them and set expectation and make sure they're qualified. And I will tell you, I was in the outsourcing business and logistics for 13 years. And the thing that I always impressed upon people is, if you do it yourself, you have the illusion that you're in control of it because you're responsible. But if you're not doing it, it's not in control. You actually get more control with a good outsourcing process and more accountability than you do trying to do it yourself.
Doug, I think you are like King Midas, and that everything you touch turns to gold. Not so much as the curse of like killing your loved ones, but
okay, good. My wife will be happy to hear that.
Good. You can. I would take a high five from you at the risk of turning.
All right, high five.
So if our viewers today would like to receive more guidance from you and get in touch with you, how can they do that?
Well, first, I want to thank those who are live for their questions. I love answering questions, as you noticed. If you'd like to continue the conversation or have a specific question about your practice, you can contact me on my email. It's doug@summit-success.com. And just send me a note and we'll set up a time to have a conversation. I set aside time for discovery calls with lawyers pretty regularly, and I love just the learning and chatting with people. If you don't think you're necessarily ready for that, and I've got a free gift that I can offer to you, it's how to, what did I call it? How to turn your law practice into a business that sets you free. I know Joe can pop the link that I sent him into there. Into the chat. There it is, summit-success.com/rebootcamp22. And then you'll be on my list for tips and tricks and strategies and stuff like that. But I love the questions, and I just want to say that one of the most important things that I learned in my life was when I decided I didn't have to do everything myself. There was no special prize at the end for you did it all yourself. And the entrepreneurs who are most successful didn't do it themselves. The golfers that you see, they didn't do it themselves. They were smart enough to put the right people on their team. And once I did that for myself and I got my own coaches, it was transformational, because then I wasn't alone anymore. And I was better for my family. I was better for my clients, and I get to meet cool people like Nick and Joe, and meet you guys today. So if you go, getting help is not a weakness, it's a sign of strength.
The smartest people I know receive the most help. So Doug, I want to thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
At Law Firm Summer Reboot Camp.